and welcome to the Doctor's In on CNN Philippines, your daily guide to virtual care in this time of the coronavirus. I'm Dr. Freddie Gomez, and we're looking forward to answering your questions over the next half hour. Many of us have gotten accustomed to sleeping in, but now that some of us are heading back to work, we need to readjust to our old routines. Sleep has a significant impact on our well being, productivity in the workplace, and much, much more. Today, we discuss the importance of sleep and how to mentally prepare for a good night's rest. We are joined today by Dr. Bernardino, psychiatrist and consultant at the Philippine Mental Health Association Incorporated. Welcome to the show, Dr. Bernie. I'll go ahead and ask you the first question off the bat. So, our topic for today is sleep and how important it is for our overall well being. And one of that is our mental health. Dr. Bernie, what problems usually occur when a person lacks enough sleep?
Well, if the person has a lack of sleep, you have difficulty of focusing, difficulty of learning new materials, and the creativity of the person also declines. Likewise, lack of sleep will cause a problem in their ability to solve yung problems. So problem solving skills become deficit. In extreme sleep deprivation, you can even have slurring of speech and then even vision worsens.
That's right, Dr. Benny. And you, as you mentioned, how sleep deprivation can also become a factor. But sleep deprivation brought about by COVID-19 anxieties can affect work output as well. So yung maraming nag-iisip about COVID-19, whether or not they are at risk or not. How should individuals deal with this? Yung anxiety nila towards COVID-19, them losing sleep over this.
Well, COVID-19 is a chronic stressor, no? And what it does is it causes the person to be hyper aroused, no? Especially if you're exposed to the media about COVID, the negative news, no? It heightens your fear, no? And that in that way, it makes sleep sometimes difficult, no? And one of the technique really for anxiety is to have a good sleep. If you have a good sleep, you break that anxiety. It's like any relaxation exercise. When you have you're severely anxious, you're hyper aroused, you're hyper vigilant. Going into sports, exercise, and even sleep will break that cycle. So this is the importance of how you can break the stress caused by COVID.
Okay, now Dr. Benny, if you could help me answer some of the social media questions that we have. We have a question from Santi. Ang tanong ni Santi ay, how does anxiety affect regular sleep pattern? Parang nasagot na natin rin yon kanina, Dr. Benny.
Well, definitely, if you're anxious, it causes you to be hyper vigilant, hyper aroused, and that in itself will cause difficulty in sleeping. So the technique there is really to relax yourself, to get yourself out of that anxiety state, or hyper arousal state. There are many techniques to do that. One is practicing meditation, relaxation exercises are also good. Exercises itself, physical exercises are also, even stretching if you can't do physical exercises, are known to help you sleep well.
That's right. We have another question from Tara. Ang tanong naman ni Tara ay, I feel drained after a long day of work but still have a hard time sleeping. How do I manage this?
Well, this is like the athlete who exercises in the belief that when they get tired, they will be able to sleep well. But the point there is that when you exercise at night, you have an excess of adrenaline. Your adrenaline will keep you awake. So the same is true if you feel that you're working, you're not really dead tired, you can't sleep. There may be something wrong about yung sleep environment mo. Now, I suggest for the one who asked that question, lengthen the what they call this, the time, preparing time before sleeping. If you're about to sleep at 10 o'clock, no, you'll be sleeping. 9 o'clock would be your time to what do you call this, yung calming yourself or preparing yourself for time. No, extend it from 1 hour to about 2 hours. No, usually that will also help you. The other thing that you can do is about 2 hours before sleeping, you start to darken your room. No, dim the lights. No, before actually closing it. Dimming the lights, darkening your room will actually stimulate you to produce that hormone which you call melatonin, and that will trigger or be an onset or sort of a signal for you to start to sleep.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Benny Vicente, for joining us today on The Doctor Is In. But before we go, do you have a message for our audience?
Well, some of the tips for sleeping is you only have to sleep 7 to 8 hours. Don't sleep more than 7 to 8 hours. No. It is also important to establish a routine. That's why it's called sleep hygiene. Get up at the same time always, every day. Get up, let's say if you want to get up at 7, always wake up at 7. Even if you had a sleep, you slept late at night, no, still wake up at 7. Compensate by on the next sleeping cycle. Exercise, stretching, especially in the morning, regularly also helps sleep. No, then of course the proper sleep environment. No, dimming the lights, a cool temperature. No, freedom from noise and interruption. Sometimes you need to take a little snack before you sleep if you can sleep to change that tone of your body from a sympathetic to a more parasympathetic tone, a more relaxed tone. Well, things that you can avoid: coffee, alcohol, caffeine. You have to avoid this. Coffee, you have to avoid at least 4 to 5 hours before sleeping. No, that's the time your body metabolizes the caffeine out of your system. No, and then use the bed only for sleeping and sex. Now, that's about it.
Okay. Okay, well taken advice. Thank you very much. That was Dr. Benny Vicente. After the break, we discuss sleeping patterns in the new normal. Stay tuned to CNN Philippines. We will be right back. You are watching The Doctors In on CNN Philippines. I'm Dr. Freddie Gomez, and we want to make the most out of your telemedicine appointment today. So send in your questions, and we'll do our best to answer them. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, unhealthy sleep habits were common during the Enhanced Community Quarantine, or ECQ. And as the pandemic introduces us to the new normal, possible sleep disorders need to be addressed now more than ever. Joining us now is sleep specialist Dr. Jimmy Chang. He is an ENT head and neck surgeon and the head of the Comprehensive Sleep Disorder Center at St. Luke's Medical Center in Quezon City. Welcome to the show, Dr. Jimmy.
Hello, hello. Thank you for inviting me.
Okay, good to have you here, Dr. Jimmy. Now, my first question for you is, how has the new normal affected our sleep patterns?
Hmm. Uh, First and foremost, it affected our daily routine. Uh, in such a way that yung before na everyday yung cues, yung daily cues, so you go to work, you return home, you take your meals at a certain time. Somehow that got disrupted and it affected our sleep in such a way na nasisira yung yung timing mo during the day, and in turn it also affected yung timing ng sleep ng person. And because of the lockdown, some people might be spending too much time in their bed. They might not be going out too much na hindi sila naaarawan, less sunlight and too much artificial light. And again, yung disrupted routines. And of course, yung anxiety brought about by the virus and the uncertainty that comes with it, it affected the sleep of some patients na prone to get anxiety and insomnia.
Yes, I agree. We were talking earlier with Dr. Benny, who is a psychiatrist, about how nasisira nga ang routine ng mga tao. They sleep in late, and like what you said, nasisira yung mga sleeping cues. So this pandemic has definitely disrupted a lot of sleeping patterns. So my question is, can this disruption in sleeping patterns, can this trigger actual sleep disorders?
Yes, especially if you start focusing on your disrupted sleep, you can turn out na ma-develop ka ng psychophysiologic insomnia na you start to be very concerned about your sleep, and in turn it will create more problems with yung sleep mo. And it's like a vicious cycle na you focus on your sleep, you focus on the bad effects it brings, and then now you find it even more difficult to fall asleep because of the pressure, the performance anxiety it brings every night.
That's good that you mentioned insomnia, because there was a study that showed that before the pandemic, 30 to 35% of adults suffer from acute or short-term insomnia. How can people manage their sleep disorders in this new normal, Doc Jimmy?
The bad habits they are developing that are actually disrupting their sleep even more. Usually kasi may people with difficulty sleeping, they try to fix themselves first. And one of the bad things or the wrong technique that they do is they go to bed very early. And then they try to fall asleep early kasi tatry nilang bumawi ng tulog. So what we usually do is we do a sleep history and we identify all the bad habits na na-develop ng patient because he or she is trying to counter the sleep difficulties na na-encounter niya. So one is that, going to bed early. So try not to go to bed unless you're really sleepy already. And then some people go to bed and then dun sila nanonood ng Netflix, nagpe-Facebook, etc. So try to also limit your activities in bed to just sleep. Kasi your subconscious should be associating your bed with sleep rather than other activities na eventually nagiging work area na siya, nagiging entertainment area na siya. And another one is try to remove a clock that na nakikita mo, or yung try to avoid looking at the time whenever you're in bed. Kasi that puts on more pressure sa'yo na kapag nakikita mo yung time na 1 hour na ako nakahiga, 2 hours na ako nakahiga, hindi ako makatulog, that will not help.
Okay, definitely good advice. Now let's continue our discussion by answering some of your questions sent via the CNN Philippines Facebook page. Meron tayong tanong from Lian Santos. She's asking, are there certain foods that could affect my sleep?
Yeah. Number one is caffeine-containing food or drinks. We generally, for people prone to having insomnia, as much as possible, lunchtime onwards, try to avoid anything with caffeine already. Next is alcohol. Some people with sleep difficulties, they go to alcohol na tinatry nilang mag-inom ng alcohol to help them go to sleep. Alcohol will help you enter sleep, but eventually yung sleep mo magiging disrupted, magiging mababaw siya, and the quality of sleep is hence affected.
Still ahead, how does sleep affect your physical health? We'll find out when the doctor is in returns. Stay tuned to CNN Philippines.
As we move to the next stage of easing restrictions, the reality is the COVID-19 pandemic is far from over. The coronavirus remains a serious public health risk. Good personal hygiene is our first line of defense. Wash your hands often with soap and water and for at least 20 seconds. Scrub all surfaces of the hands. If hand washing is not immediately available, use alcohol-based hand sanitizers. Wear a mask. The coronavirus is transmitted through direct contact with respiratory droplets of an infected person generated through sneezing or coughing. Cover your mouth and nose with a tissue or handkerchief when sneezing or coughing. Avoid touching your face. Maintain social distancing. Keep a safe distance of at least a meter from others whenever possible. Avoid crowds. Stay at home if you have any cold or flu-like symptoms and seek medical advice. We're in this together.
Welcome to The Doctor is In. I'm Dr. Freddie Gomez. As we return to the workplace, we are at risk of being exposed to someone with COVID-19. That is why quality sleep is so important in improving our body's defense system. We're joined today by sleep specialist Dr. Jimmy Chang. Now, Dr. Jimmy, how does a lack of sleep affect our immune system?
Um, Sleep actually boosts the production of cytokines that are needed to boost your immune system when you fight infections and any inflammation. It has also been seen that lack of sleep will decrease the number of cells needed in your immune system to fight infections as well. That's why sleep is very cost effective and and really important factor in helping you fight infections such as viruses including COVID-19.
That's right. Ngayon, Doc Jimmy, marami ang may alam na kailangan talaga is around 6 to 8 hours of sleep ang kailangan. But more important than that is yung quality ng sleep na meron ng mga tao. So what really defines good quality sleep, and can good quality sleep really prevent COVID-19 infections?
Okay. For sleep, usually I break it down to three requirements. First is
Okay, I think we have some technical difficulty with Dr.
second
Jimmy
is you have
as
to
he
have
was
adequate
getting right into the interesting parts. Okay, there we go. Dr. Jimmy, do we have you back? Okay, we're trying to get Dr. Jimmy back on the line because what he's saying is important. Ang tinanong ko kay Dr. Jimmy is marami sa atin ang may alam na kailangan natin talaga ang tulog. Marami sa atin ang kailangan ng certain number of oras. Pero mas importante doon sa haba ng tulog ay yung quality ng sleep na meron tayo. So, Dr. Jimmy Chang, are you back with us?
yes. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, we had some technical
Okay.
difficulties here. I'll repeat my question. My question to you was,
Okay.
what defines good quality sleep? Ayan, and can that really prevent COVID-19 infections?
Okay. So sleep usually needs three requirements. First is proper timing. We are as humans, we need to sleep during the night. So people who sleep during the day, tendency is their quality of sleep is not that good. Second is yung duration of sleep. Adults would usually need about 7 to 8 hours of sleep, while teenagers will usually need about 9 hours of sleep. So that's also important. Now, the third one is quality of sleep. When you sleep, there are certain stages of sleep, stage 1, 2, 3, and then you go into REM sleep. So you need to get about 3 to 4 cycles of that wherein you go to stage 1, 2, 3, and then REM sleep. You need to have 3 cycles of those stages in order for you to say that your quality of sleep is good. Now, the problem is if there's something that's happening during the night that will cut short that cycle, like sleep apnea, if you snore, whenever you enter stage 2 or 3 sleep, then you stop breathing and then your body wakes you up a little. So hindi mo ngayon napapasok yung malalim na tulog. So kahit sabihin mong natutulog ka sa gabi and mahaba naman yung tulog mo, pero dahil hindi malalim yung tulog mo, hindi mo naaabot yung malalalim na stages ng sleep, tendency is your sleep is very poor. And then you still end up with the consequences of having bad sleep. Parang sleep deprived pa rin yung dating mo.
That's right. I agree with that. Very good advice, Dr. Jimmy. Now let's answer some of your social media questions. We have a question from Tisha. Ang tanong ni Tisha, I've been experiencing really bad insomnia lately. Is it safe to take a Tylenol PM to help me with my sleeping problems? Now, for our viewers' benefit, Tylenol PM is not available here in the Philippines, but the active ingredient to Tylenol PM is diphenhydramine, which has a sleeping effect. So it's a sleeping aid. Ayun. So Dr. Jimmy, sa tingin mo, magiging effective or safe ang pag-take ni Tisha ng sleeping aid luna sa bad insomnia?
Yeah. Usually, antihistamines, side effect lang niya yung medyo aantokin ka ng kaunti. Now, with treatment of insomnia, we usually do not advise resorting to pharmacological treatment kaagad because tendency is you're going to be dependent on the drug. Of course, if you take a sleeping pill, it will help you fall asleep that night. But that doesn't mean na yung cause ng insomnia mo is already resolved. That's why what we do is we get a full history. We find out what's actually causing the insomnia ng patient, the bad habits that they're forming, etc. And we try to fix that. Now, we can give sleeping pills to aid eventually, but we do not resort to sleeping pills right away because eventually, hahanap-hanapin ng patient lagi yung pills and then mahirap na silang i-therapy eventually because naghahanap na sila ng patapang ng gamot. And yeah, so that's why what we call cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia is the primary treatment. And then we can give pharmacological treatment for acute insomnia and to aid with the CBTI also.
Okay. Very good. Marami tayong natututunan kay Dr. Jimmy Chang with regards to sleep. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this program. So I'd like to thank Dr. Jimmy Chang for joining us today on The Doctor's Inn and sharing your expertise. It will definitely help our viewers guide them in trying to get that quality sleep.
Thank you very much. Keep safe.
Yes, at sana'y nasagot rin namin ang inyong mga katanungan tungkol sa COVID-19. Samahan niyo po kami ulit bukas, 3:30 p.m. on The Doctor Is In. I'm Dr. Freddie Gomez. Stay safe, everyone.
Amid the darkness, look on the bright side. The coronavirus is particularly deadly among older people. But look, this 95-year-old man is back home resting after he recovered from COVID-19. He's now one of the many faces of hope, and he's an inspiration for the country and the rest of the world. A newlywed couple proves that love conquers all. Jim and Jera tied the knot at a hospital in Bacolod City. They were planning to get married earlier this year, but the pandemic forced them to postpone it. So they chose to say their I do's in the hospital where Jera works as an office staff. But they still followed safety guidelines during the ceremony. They just took off their face masks when they kissed to seal their vows. Stars are shining bright during this time of COVID-19. Actress Angel Locsin raised close to 11 million pesos for her campaign called United We Stand PH. She provided sanitation tents to 69 hospitals to help them with the overcrowding problem. Mr. Pure Energy singer-songwriter Gary Valenciano raised more than 1 million pesos for communities in need.
Valenciano is among musicians who are taking part in the online concert series Bayanihan Musikahan. The goal is to help frontline medical workers and families who are affected by this global pandemic.
As bad as the situation may be, it's bringing out the best in a lot of people. That's something that I also salute, the heart of the Filipino to help other Filipinos.
I'm Ria Tanwat Cotrillo, CNN Philippines.